What's up guys, Josiah LaRue here. So today we're going to be talking about everything new from Apple. So yeah, if you hadn't heard, Apple had their big press conference last Tuesday and they released some new hardware and software and some pretty cool stuff. If you've been following me, you saw that I did a live tweet off. I was going to do a live stream as I mentioned in the last video, but ended up not being able to because of crappy internet. But yeah, I did a live tweet off. If you're not following me, you can follow me at twitter.com/Josiah LaRue or on facebook.com/Josiah LaRue. So I was live tweeting it there. But anyway, now I'm going to do a recap for you guys and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on all the new stuff that Apple released. So the first thing they talked about, as usual, was just all the numbers of apps sold, songs sold, downloads, phones sold, etc. And overall, Apple is doing very well for themselves. Apple has always been a little bit dated in a way, sticking with the 3.5 and then sticking with the original 3.5-inch phones for several generations and then finally making the leap to 4 inches, but really sticking with that. But this year, they have broken the mold and increased the screen size. So what are the differences of the different models? The iPhone 6 comes in at 4.7 inches, more on par with the S5 or the Nexus 5 or whatever, while the iPhone 6 Plus comes in at 5.5 inches, more on par with the Note 4 or the LG G3 or some of the higher end flagship larger model screens. So they're really diversifying. They're still selling the 5C and the 5S, so you have the full line of the 4-inch phones, the 4.7-inch phones, and the 5.5-inch phones. So whatever hand size feels good for you, you now have an iPhone, which is really good. And I think it's what Apple probably should have done a couple generations ago, but I'm glad they finally did it now. And I think that with these new phone sizes, they're going to really start selling off the shelves really fast. So now let's talk about some of the tech specs before we go back and talk about some of the features. So the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus both come in the standard Apple Space Gray, Apple Silver, and Apple Gold coloring. But the storage options have changed up a little bit. You have 16, 64, or 128 gig in your phone. They originally just released this in the iPods, but now they're finally doing it in the phones as well. And I think it's about time. Being as Apple doesn't allow you to expand with SD storage, they need to provide an option where people can load their stuff up with lots of pictures or lots of songs or media files or whatever. So 128 gig is good. But they reasonably dropped the price too. More on that later. The 4.7-inch screen on the iPhone 6 is a 1334 by 750 at 326 dpi Retina HD display for more advanced Retina display, for more clarity and more DPI and just a better looking screen. While the iPhone 6 Plus is 1920 by 1080 at a 5.5-inch screen with 401 DPI. So a higher density screen for the larger size, but when you do compare them with comparable sizes, they're both a little bit underpowered in the DPI. But because of the Retina display, because it's an IPS panel, you can't really tell. They're still gorgeous displays, and they're still going to display media and any other content very well. They released new CPU and mobile hardware in the A8 processor chip, which is their second generation of 64-bit mobile processing. They haven't really released much in ways of what the A8 is, but it's going to be a ARM Cortex A8 processor running at probably over a gigahertz with the CPU and GPU on board, probably at least a gig of onboard RAM. But all we know is that at 64-bit, it runs everything a lot faster, a lot smoother. And then combining with their M8 chip, which is their motion chip, which uses a GPS, an accelerometer, and a new barometer, so it'll now tell you your elevation and pressure. Tracking all that together allows them to do some very cool things in the software end, but because it has a separate chip for tracking all that, the CPU and GPU can focus just on doing camera stuff or graphics or whatever else, and just the actual CPU crunching, and not have to worry about all the other barometric or locational data or whatever tracked by the M8 chip. The iSight camera is still 8 megapixels, but they increased the aperture and the autofocus and combined it with the CPU to create some very interesting technologies. It autofocuses continuously, so it's always looking for that great shot. It's better at detecting faces. It has auto image stabilization as well as auto HDR, and it really just does great photos. Apple doesn't necessarily go for the all-in-out like 13 or like the Nokia 26 megapixels in their camera. They don't have to. They just have to create a better lens, a better aperture, and then combine it with software, and they can create very great photos in, you know, a very small phone that you can just shove in your pocket. Video recording has gotten better, and now you can shoot 1080p HD video at 30 or 60 frames per second, while you can shoot slow-mo at 240 or 120 frames per second as well. So you can really get super true slow-mo video if you really want to. So that's pretty cool. They also improved the front iSight camera with a 2.2 megapixel front sight camera with a 2.0 aperture and better HD quality video, so that your FaceTime is now FaceTime HD Plus or whatever, in that it's just a better FaceTime camera. So now you can have very high quality looking selfies as well. The home button is still the Touch ID, and that's going to be used in several new features that they're implementing. And they're also demoing something that there had been a lot of rumors about, NFC. But in Apple's case, it's called Apple Pay. More on that later. It is, of course, running on the 4 major mobile networks in the United States: T-Mobile, AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon, as well as many of the subcarriers that use those different technologies. Apple did increase the connectivity in that it now has 20 LTE bands, including a couple Ultra LTE bands, as well as better Wi-Fi with AC support, as well as the NGB regular Wi-Fi connections, so you have better that way, as well as Bluetooth 4.0 LE for more energy efficient but high speed data transfers. The overall layout of the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus hasn't really changed, except for a couple major things. First of all, the displays are not sapphire glass as much as many people had rumored about, but instead just the regular Gorilla Glass. But an interesting thing that they did is they actually tapered the edges of the glass, so it's very hard to tell where the screen on the top leaves off and it enters the case, particularly since they rounded the whole body of the case. Yes, your new iPhones actually look more like the iPod Touches than the traditional iPhones, where it's very squared on all sides. It's a very rounded experience from front to back. Also, because they are larger displays, Apple finally bit the bullet and moved the power button down to the side like most Android phones are now, moving it to your top right. So it's a little bit easier to grab with your finger. Other than that, it's the same mute and volume buttons on the left-hand side. On the bottom, they have the speaker, the lightning connector, the telephone jack, and the microphone. Power button on the right-hand side, and that's about it. Well, along with the Touch ID for the home button on the front. One interesting thing that they did do with the camera is that it's actually bulged out a little. Because of this 5 lens and the better aperture rating, they needed to move the camera out a little bit more. So yes, the camera area actually bulges out a little bit more than the phone, which is an interesting design coming from Apple when they like to make everything smooth and aesthetic. But they did kind of round the edges and make it kind of flow pretty seamlessly, but it is a noticeable bulge, so, you know, if you ever see an iPhone and you see the camera bulging out, you know it's going to be a 6 or 6 Plus. The iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus also have some really aggressive price points. The iPhone 6 starts at $199 for 16 gigs of storage, $299 for 64 gigs of storage, and $399 for 128 gigs of storage. While the iPhone 6 Plus starts at $299 for 16 gigs, $399 for 64 gigs, and $499 for 128 gigs. So a whole bunch of storage for overall a pretty affordable price for these very awesome phones. So the second major part of the conference was talking all about Apple Pay. So Apple Pay is Apple's take at NFC or mobile payments and the mobile wallet. So first of all, you put your credit card down on the table or whatever, and then using your camera, take a picture of it. You don't have to take a picture of the back with a security code or whatever, because it then contacts your bank. You put in some information to verify that you are in fact that card holder, and then it directly contacts your bank and verifies that, so then all the information is just synced directly between Apple and your bank, so you don't need to have that PIN code on the back. That way, if you were to ever lose the phone, then the thief would not be able to automatically just rip you off because they do not know the code on the back. So anyway, after you take the photo and it saves the card and verifies it into your passbook, then you can walk up to any Apple Pay enabled checkout device at many of the major retailers that are going to be supporting this, tap your phone against it after your transaction is ready to pay for, and within a couple seconds it'll automatically bing, sync your phone to the Apple Pay server, verify that you're the account holder, verify the payment, and you're automatically ready to go. Don't pull out your credit card, swipe it, sign for it, put it back in the wallet, wait for the receipt to print or whatever. And this system is secure because it uses a combination of the mobile safe that they use to encrypt your fingerprints, as well as the Touch ID sensor. So as you put your thumb down, it verifies that you are in fact the user of the phone. It unlocks it. Then once you're going to pay for it, you do it again with your thumb. It verifies that it's you with your credit card, and you're automatically ready to go. Another security feature is that in the iCloud suite, along with the Find My iPhone, if you're ever to lose your phone, you can tell it to stop allowing any payments out of that phone. So if someone ever happens to get a hold of it and then successfully logs into it or whatever, they cannot make payments because you told that phone to be deactivated for any payments from the future. And another way that Apple Pay is secure is that it doesn't use the actual PIN on the back and just the card number or whatever. It creates its own one-time PIN number and transaction number, so that each transaction is separate, so your card is not being used the same way each time, and it's 128-bit ALS encrypted, so that every connection is very secure and every transaction is very secure, so that you won't lose your private information that way. Also, Apple is going to be working with the top major 3 credit cards, American Express, Visa, and MasterCard, as well as many of the big banks like Chase and some of the other ones, to make sure that all of this starting off is going to be very smoothly. They're also going to be working out with rolling out with retailers to actually start using the Apple Pay stations across the world. Target is going to be one of the big ones, Subway, Disney World, and some of the other ones, to just name a few. But as the years go forward, I'm sure that we'll get more and more as people are going to start probably pressuring the local retailers to start doing it because they have the iPhone and they want to use Apple Pay. So yeah, it's pretty cool technology. I'm glad Apple is finally getting on the bandwagon. I know that because NFC has been out for a couple of years now, everybody thought that it'd be in their phones by a couple of generations ago, but here it is. Apple doesn't always the first one to the picture, but when they are, they do it well and they do it big. So way to go, Apple. And finally, the third part, and probably the most anticipated part of the Apple conference, and most remembered, is the release of the Apple Watch. Yes, that mystical wearable device that everyone called the Apple iWatch or whatever, and Tim Cook was even caught goofing up saying himself, is actually called the Apple Watch. So Apple is releasing 3 different editions, as they call them, of the Apple Watch: the Apple Watch, the Sports Edition, and the Apple Edition. The regular Apple Watch is going to be in stainless steel. The Sports Edition is going to be made of aluminum, and the Apple Edition Premium Watch is going to be made out of 18 karat gold. Yes, so you can have that fancy smartwatch be made out of gold, or at least a gold casing anyway. Apple really did it very interesting in the way that they built this watch. They built the wristbands to be completely removable and hot swappable, so you can put on a leather band or a steel band or a aluminum magnetic band or a premium leather band or whatever you want. I mean, you can mix and match these watches to be whatever you want. I mean, you can have a silver band with a gold watch, or whatever you think is tasteful or whatever accents you the best. So it really is designed for you and your lifestyle and whatever you want it to be. And the design is very interesting as well. They knew that you wouldn't be able to pinch and zoom the way that you normally could on a phone or whatever because of the bigger size of the screen. On a 2.5-inch screen on your wrist, you need to be able to zoom, but not with your fingers. So the way that they enabled zoom was what they call the digital crown, or the little rotary dial on the side of most normal watches that you use to set the faces on the watch. Instead allows you to more finitely zoom in on whatever you're looking at, whether it's photos or maps or whatever. Also, when you push the button in, it acts as a home button, and when you push and hold, it acts as the Siri trigger. And the bottom button below that pulls up your contacts. On the back, or the area that is going to be touching your skin, it has 2 different infrared sensors that test for your pulse, or how much you sweat, or how much you're moving. It also uses an accelerometer inside, and then uses the barometer and the GPS from your phone to compile it all together to see how well you're exercising or whatever. Yes, that is a requirement for you to have an iPhone for your Apple Watch to really work, because it needs the mobile internet as well as those sensors on your iPhone. So what iPhones work with it? Well, the iPhone 5, 5C, 5S, 6, and 6 Plus. So if you have any of those, then you can use the Apple iWatch and really get the most out of it. So what else can it do? Well, it can do maps. It'll do fitness tracking for several different ways. I mean, whether it has how much you should be standing, running, walking. You can take it jogging or biking or whatever. and you can either have it record workouts or it'll also project goals for the day. So, it wants you to stand up for a certain amount of time or walk for a certain amount of time or run or whatever. So you can set up goals, you can see how well you're doing against them, you can just see how well you've been exercising. It really is designed for fitness and lifestyle. So you can do reply to text messages, whether it's predictive text with the new iOS 8 keyboard or using Siri for voice inputs. You can respond to calls, you can answer or not answer. You can talk to your wrist. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's sci-fi. It's what people have been wanting for a really long time. You can do messaging in a very interesting way because it has a haptic feedback sensor or a little vibrator motor. You can send like little vibrates to each other, so you can tap using the pressure sensitivity of the screen for short tap, long tap, double tap, whatever, and it'll send little buzzes to your friend. You can also send your heartbeat. Yes, it'll record your pulse for a couple seconds and send to your friend your heartbeat. I'm not sure if that's really romantic or just creepy, but you can send your heartbeat to people. Other cool features include the glances, or pretty much the today section of the notification center, in that you can swipe up on your wrist and it'll display, current calendar stuff, the current events you have coming up in your calendar, messages, places you have to go, directions, calls, tweets, whatever. I mean, you can really customize what you want in your glances, but then you can just swipe through and see, what you need to do today, where you need to go, or whatever. Maps is actually pretty good. Not only can you speak into it to tell it where you want to go, you can send it maps from your phone, you can do turn by turn, and it'll vibrate on your wrist. If you need to turn left, it'll kind of vibrate on the left side of your wrist, or right on the right side or whatever, and you can just haptically know where you need to go. Now, I haven't actually experienced the Apple Watch, but people who have been able to, or Apple at least, says that it's going to be very intuitive. So the Apple Watch comes in 3 different versions. Starts at $350. It is a little bit expensive for a wearable, but not too much, and pretty in line with the way that Apple prices their products. Overall, I'm pretty excited. I would love to get the sports edition because I think that I would like to take it with me wherever, and I want something that's a little bit more waterproof or whatever. And I could get I'll get probably one of the regular sports bands, but then I'll probably also get a stainless steel or a silver one, just to be a little more classy when I'm not out exercising or whatever, and something that looks nice the rest of the day. And because you can easily swap them from one to the other, I can just swap it whenever I need to. But the thing about the iWatch is, despite being debuted this Tuesday, it is not coming out until early 2015. I'm kind of surprised that Apple didn't release it probably a little bit more closer to Christmas, because I think that they would probably fly off the shelves. But I think that the reason why is because they really haven't started building them yet. The reason why there wasn't many more rumors about the Apple iWatch other than people thought it was coming is because they haven't started building them in mass amounts, so no one has been able to get any parts from them. So Apple actually was really well in keeping this under wraps. It was something that everybody wanted, but they managed to overall deliver what looks to be a fairly interesting product, and something that I would probably buy just for how cool it is and the extra functionality it's going to add to me already having an iPhone. If you don't already have an iPhone and you don't really want one, then the Apple iWatch is not going to be for you, because without an iPhone, this Apple iWatch isn't much for functionality. But if you do have one and you want an external wearable device that does so much like this, I would definitely recommend the Apple iWatch. Another cool thing about the Apple iWatch is that it has inductive wireless charging. So all you have to do, just like a MagSafe connector on your MacBook or MacBook Air, you just snap this magnetic connector right to the back of the iWatch and it automatically starts charging. So I guess it's not wireless, but it is inductive magnetic charging, so it's easy to charge the watch. You just set it down on the stand or down on the connector, and it automatically starts charging without any, having to line it up and make sure the connector is just right. It just snaps on and away it goes. Another cool thing it has is the NFC technology, so that you can also use it for Apple Pay. So you don't necessarily have to dig your phone out of your pocket. You can just bump your watch to the Apple Pay station and it'll automatically do Apple Pay that way. So that's another cool added value. So yeah, those are some of the top things from the Apple event. It wasn't the best Apple event in the world. I think that if Steve Jobs were there alive that day, he'd either roll over in his grave now or kick some heads if he were still alive, because it was pretty bad. Not only did they have a lot of technical difficulties, but just the presentation was not quite the seamless, and they kind of hyped a little bit more on devices that shouldn't have been and less on others. They really didn't announce a lot of the real details about the Apple Watch. Like, is it going to be 100% waterproof? How long is it going to battery charge? What's the expected battery life? Just other important details about it. They also kind of glossed over the iPhone to focus more on Apple Pay and about the smartwatch. So, it kind of left people, ooh, I want that, but wait, what are the real details about it? So it was kind of a mixed conference. It inspired awe and it inspired intrigue, but it didn't answer everything that a lot of people wanted to, particularly since a lot of the people who were there at the event were the tech heads, the nerds, the reviewers, or whatever, who really want those details. So, Apple, you really could have done better. That being said, I do want your products, and that's pretty cool. I probably won't be getting an iPhone 6 just because my iPhone 5C will serve me. There wasn't really a lot of new and impressive features about the iPhone 6 or 6 Plus other than the larger screen and NFC. But if I can get NFC through my watch, the smartwatch when it comes out next year, and just combine that with my iPhone 5C, then that will probably be the best of both worlds. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to. The Apple Watch, definitely something I'm probably going to buy. By that time, I should have more money in the bank, and that's something I'm going to buy. See you guys. Let me know. See you guys. That's all for now. Let me know in the comment box down below. What did you think about what I talked about the Apple event? Did you watch it live? What did you think about the actual event itself? Also, what about the products? Are you going to be getting an iPhone 6? I know for a lot of people it's time to renew their contracts on their phones, and these new phones with their larger screen sizes and better features and everything really do provide an enticing buy, particularly if you're anyone of an Apple fan or just upgrading from any previous Apple phones. Also, what about Apple Pay? I mean, do you think NFC is going to be the wave of the future, or you still want to use your regular physical credit card? And what about the Apple Watch, the big thing out of that event? I mean, are you going to buy one? I mean, those wearables are really cool, but it's also going to be expensive. I mean, $350 just starting out, and that's not even going up to the bling bling gold edition, which I'm sure is probably going to be more than $1,000. But yeah, let me know. I'd love to read your comments. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want to check out last week's episode, you can do that over here, and if you want to check out what I talked about before, you can check it out down here. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!